Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue with our Module 4 notes today by looking at some word problems with fraction multiplication, word problems that use fraction multiplication. This is going to match up with Lesson 16. So our Roman numeral will need a 10. There we go. Plus 5 more is 15. Plus 1 more is 16. So Roman numeral 16, 4-16, word problems with fraction multiplication. Now, like we've done before, there's going to be a little bit of writing on this, so if you need to pause once I've written the entire problem to make sure you've got it all, please do. Try to shorten them down a little bit, though, so we'll see. Example number 1. Example number 1. Okay. Anthony bought an 8-foot board. So he's buying a piece of wood that is 8 feet long, an 8-foot board. He used 3/4. He used 3/4 of it. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit because those fractions are going to be a little small otherwise. He used 3/4 of it for a shelf. So Anthony's a handy guy, he's building around the house. For a shelf, and gave 1/3 of the rest. Now this is important. 1/3 of the rest, so the remaining. He gave 1/3 of the rest to his brother. Now, how many inches long was the part he gave his brother? Okay. If you need to pause to copy the rest of that, go ahead and pause. I'll zoom out so we can see the whole thing. Just a little bit, though. Go ahead and make sure you have that copied down. All right. Now, a couple quick things before we even get started. Anthony bought an 8-foot board, 8 feet. But then down here, it asks how many inches? How many inches long was the part he gave his brother? So at some point, we're going to have to switch from feet to inches. When I was first looking at this problem, I actually did it right away. I'm going to give you a hint. It's a little easier if you wait. The numbers you have to deal with are a little bit smaller. Let's take a look. To solve this problem, I am going to draw a tape diagram. This is nice because I can even pretend I'm just drawing the board of wood. Okay. Now we know the board is 8 feet long. We know that the board is 8 feet long. We know that Anthony used 3/4 of it, so I'm going to cut the board into fourths. I'm going to cut the board into fourths, and then I'm going to go ahead and color in Anthony used 1, 2, 3/4 of it. Now I've got colored pencils out already because I'm going to be using them for the next one. If you want to pause and grab colored pencils, you can. Otherwise, don't worry. Regular pencil will work just as well. You can shade this in regular pencil as well. So, 3/4 of the board. Now, I can figure out 3/4 of 8 feet. 3/4 of, remember we're just multiplying, 3/4 of 8, well, 8 is a whole number. I'm going to write it 8/1. Those of you who like to cross-cancel, 8 and 4 will allow you to do that. But if you're not as comfortable with that, you can just multiply straight across. 3 times 8 is 24. 4 times 1 is 4. And 24 divided by 4, I'll slide this over a little bit, 24 divided by 4 is 6. So Anthony used a total of 6 feet for the shelf. Probably should have slid that a little closer, but that's okay. 6 feet for the shelf. So this green part right here is 6 feet. That means this little part right here, is 2 feet long. 8 feet total. Take out the 6 for the shelf. 8 minus 6 is 2. So there are 2 feet remaining. Now at this part, at this point, it would be helpful to change from feet into inches before we figure out how much he gave to his brother. So 2 feet is the same as 2 times the number of inches in a foot. Hopefully most of us remember there are 12 inches in a foot. I love when the bell rings in the middle of notes. 2 times 12 is going to be 24 inches. Doesn't it just make you feel like you're still at school? Isn't that fun? Yeah, no, it's not. Okay. 24 inches left. 24 inches left. Anthony gave 1/3 of the rest. 1/3 of the rest. Which means 1/3 of 24. 1/3 of 24. You can write this the way we've been doing, or again, if we look back and think 1/3 a unit fraction times a whole number. 1/3 times 24 is just 24 divided by 3, which is 8. But it's very, very important that we label this correctly. It is 8 inches. Now, there's no way it can be 8 feet. Anthony only bought 8 feet. But still, we want to make sure it's very clear that we label that inches. Okay. We drew a tape diagram. We split it up according to the first fraction they gave us, how much he already used. That allowed us to figure out what was left. Then we figured out the fraction of what was left. Okay. Let's take a look. We will do one more example together. So let's look at example number 2. Example number 2. Actually, let me slide this up. There we go. Okay. Susan had $24 in her pocket. Must be nice for Susan. Susan had $24 in her pocket. She spent 1/6 of her money, 1/6 of her money on a book. She spent 3/5. Sorry, I'm going to zoom back in. A lot of zooming in and out today. Fractions are tiny. She spent 3/5 of the remaining money on a game. How much did the game cost? Now, I'm not asking for a fraction. Please don't be tempted to put 3/5. I'm not looking for a fraction. I want to know how much the game cost in money, in dollars. How many dollars did she spend on the game? Now, I'm going to let you work on this one on your own, but I will get you started. We'll do another tape diagram. We'll ask ourselves, what is the total? What's the whole that we started with? Well, she had $24 in her pocket. So $24 in her pocket. She spent 1/6 of her money on a book. So I'm going to split this thing into sixths. I always do half first when it's a number that I can divide in half, because then I just put half of them on this side, half of them on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, Susan spent 1/6 of her money on a book. So this section right here This is going to tell you how much she spent on the book. That's 1/6. That's her book right there. Now from this point, you have a few different options on how to proceed. If you want to figure out the cost of her book, 1/6 of $24, you can do that, subtract it away from $24 to see what she has left, and then find 3/5 of that. There is a little bit of a shortcut you can take if you realize that removing that 1/6 gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, 5/6 left. 5/6, 5 pieces. She spent 3/5. 3/5 on a game. So if I color that in, 3 out of 5 pieces that are remaining, 3 out of the 5 remaining pieces. Now, this is not 3/5 of 24. This is 3/5 of what was left. Take a look at what I colored in green. What fraction of the original amount of money is that? And then use that to help you find the answer. I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here. Work this out on your own. Use this information. If you have any questions or any trouble, contact a friend. Look back at the ones we've done. But we will go over it briefly in class. So any other issues we'll try to tackle there. All right, good luck, ladies and gentlemen. Take your time, do your best, and I'll see you in class.